Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another round of the Middle of the Pack Racing League GT4 Championship for 2022, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform known only as iRacing, available on PC. Tonight marks round 2 of what is the 9-round calendar, and we're here today at the Red Bull Ring in Austria for what is expected to be a round that is all about being smart with the draft and being as late on the brakes as you possibly dare versus your opponent. Now, with that in mind, of course, we do need to go through our schedule for tonight. Times in British Summer Time, that's BST or UTC +1. It will be the case that in just over 14 minutes' time, we'll be getting underway with our 15-minute qualifying session, seeing our drivers head out onto the circuit in their respective driver classes to put in their best possible laps to set the grid for the purposes of our one and only race tonight. That one and only race being the sprint race, a 20-minute long race, kicking off at approximately 6:30 this evening, and it will all be about getting to the front of your respective class and bringing home those all-important points, plus also the bonus point for fastest lap if you can. There's no prizes for coming into the pits in the sprint race. It's all about being out there on circuit and delivering lap after lap. Now, with our schedule covered, of course, in terms of where you can tune in tonight for the broadcast, you can tune in firstly via YouTube. That is at Paul Walsh, also TX141TX on YouTube. Alternatively, if you go to twitch.tv/TX141, you can tune in on Twitch if you are so inclined. Now, who is Paul Walsh, or who is TX141? Well, that's me. I'm your host and commentator, known as Paul Walsh, TX141, or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all of the racing action for this series from start to finish over the course of the 9-round season. Now, it should be pointed out that the race itself actually occurred on Wednesday earlier this week. That was Wednesday the 1st of June 2022, and therefore this is a post-race broadcast made possible by iRacing replay files. It does mean that we have some technical limitations, such as we're not quite able to give you replays of moments that occur in the race, but other than that, it's going to be the full live experience for you guys and girls tuning in. It'll be just as if you're tuned into it live. Indeed, I, as your host and commentator, do not know the outcome of qualifying nor the race, so therefore it's all new to me, and therefore it's going to be all new to you guys and girls. Of course, some of the drivers taking part may be tuning in tonight, and if I could ask those drivers to try and not spoil anything in the chat, just so that way those who are uninitiated don't have it spoiled for them before all the action kicks off. But without further ado, it is the case we should look to the season ahead and recall where we are in the calendar. So it is the case that last time out, we were in round number 1 at Interlagos, kicking off at stage 1 of this series, the Formula 1 stage, named after the fact that it is based on the major named circuits in the typical Formula 1 calendar, and Interlagos being the opener of the season, of course, the legendary Brazilian circuit. How could we not open at the Interlagos circuit? And that all kicked off back on the 25th of May, and we saw plenty of racing action there, and indeed, some drivers established themselves as firm favourites in their respective driver classes. Today, we are at the Red Bull Ring, where the race having happened on the 1st of June. We've gone from Brazil and the South American continent to the European continent, and indeed we are in Austria, and we'll talk more specifically about the circuit in short order. And in a week's time, so on the 8th of June, we'll be headed to the Asia Pacific region, i.e. Japan in particular, for the Suzuka Circuit, a staple of the Formula 1 calendar, Honda's test circuit, their home circuit, and it is the case Suzuka. If you haven't seen racing there, whether in real world or the sim racing world, you are going to be in for a treat. It is a legendary circuit, and indeed a way to wrap up the Formula 1 stage, given it will be our first feature race of the season. It will be a 45-minute feature race, but we'll come back and talk more about that in a week's time. After that, we've taken a brief break before returning for the American stage in Stage 2, round number 4 being at Road America, and of course this stage named the American stage because all the circuits are based in the United States of America. If it was not bleedingly obvious, we'd just make it so, and it is the case that will be on the 22nd of June at Road America, a week later Watkins Glen, and then last but not least, the American stage will be wrapped up by the Daytona Road Course on the 6th of July, and again the second of our 3 feature races. After that, we'll take another week's break before going to the Endurances stage. And this one, of course, named after the fact that these 3 circuits are the most common endurance circuits. When you think of endurance races being 6, 12 or 24 hours long, these are the 3 that always come to mind. And we will be started off in Australia, Mount Panorama Raceway, or Bathurst in short, on the 20th of July, then heading back to the continental European region of Belgium, or the country of Belgium, we should say, for Spa-Francorchamps on the 27th of July. And then the final round to wrap it all up will be at the Nordschleife variant of the Nürburgring. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the monstrosity that is the Nordschleife on the 3rd of August for our final round, and that will be the ultimate test of endurance in the 3rd and final of our 3 feature races to wrap up the championship and indeed the season as a whole. But we are, of course, winding all the way back to round number 2 today. It is the Red Bull Ring. And, well, going into today's round, let's take you through those drivers' championship standings as they currently stand. So it's the case in the Pro class, as we can see here, denoted by what is the green title at the top, or the green colouring at the top. Austin Farr leads on 26 points after what was a great day at the Interlagos circuit. However, it could be questioned as to whether Austin Farr was given a relative breather at the start of the race, what with the very fast charger and newcomer to the middle of the pack racing league of Jerome Bajulaz having a very difficult start to the race on cold tyres, spinning out through the opening couple of corners on the opening lap. Could we see the Porsche driver come back strong today and really take the fight to Austin Farr? Join in P2 there, Sam Vanolst as well, and Vanolst and no slouch when it comes to fast racing in the sprints and the features, and one to keep an eye on, with both drivers out at 21 points and therefore only 5 points for our championship leader. Edwin Onofre there, P4, having a good start to his season after being promoted from the AM classification back in the Touring Car Racing Series earlier this year, and he'll be looking to continue that momentum from 17 points. He's only one ahead of John Lauzon, and we are hearing that John Lauzon in P5 there wasn't quite able to perhaps demonstrate the pace he had at Interlagos, and he'll be looking to deliver that tonight. 16 points, he'll be hoping to build on that as much as possible, because Jordan Butler and John Wilding are only 1 point apiece behind, and they'll be looking to try and close down John Lauzon and Edwin Onofre there to be the main contenders to move into the top 3 or challenge for the top 3 over the course of tonight's proceedings. Unranked and yet to take to the circuit, we're hoping to see them tonight: Daniel Downing, Henry Morse, Rocco Avath and Tanner Dibble. And then when we come to our AM Drivers' Championship standings, as we can see here with the orange qualification on the top of the screen, it is the case that Jermaine Warren leads at on 28 points in dominant form at Interlagos, really taking all the points on offer. The perfect night with the fact he picked up the maximum possible points for the win in the race, plus also the fastest lap in qualifying and the fastest lap in the race itself. So that was at 25 plus 1 plus 2, and it is the case a full at 28 there, ahead of Roger Ganesh by 7 points. And the question will be, can Ganesh, alternatively Fernando Takahashi in P3 there, take the fight to Jermaine Warren tonight? Now, Fernando Takahashi going for the BMW M4, of course, the car that's not too strong over a single lap, but a very strong car over race distance, and we saw that come to light in Takahashi's hands last time out. Can he pull off a surprise once again and perhaps even go for the win? Duncan Ray's P4 with Mark Senegal just 1 point behind in P5, and then Lee Porter in P6. A difficult day at Interlagos for Lee Porter. He'll be looking to bounce back tonight, as indeed will Craig Parks. Kenny B. Smith, or Kevin B. Smith as he's known in full, he had his debut in the Middle of the Pack Racing League Series as last time out in Interlagos with 13 points to his tally, a P8 finish, and he'll be looking to try and build upon that. And Rodney Felker as well in P9 there on 12 points. And unranked, Albert Brand, Justin Brangan and Stefan Chelafou, and we are expecting Stefan Chelafou to return within the next couple of rounds. Not quite yet, I believe, just resolving some slight technical issues before they can take to the circuit on iRacing. Now, we should point out, of course, we haven't talked about the Instant Count Championship. We're not going to cover that quite yet. We'll start covering that as of next week, because it is the case that we've only had 1 round so far, and we really want to see how the instant points start to build up before we start to give you that coverage, ladies and gentlemen. But really, as we can see there in the AM classification, Rodney Velker on 10, a bit higher compared to most in the class, and therefore you won't be wanting to expand upon that tonight. But it's very nip and tuck at the moment, so we'll start to see our emerging safe drivers, if you will, once we go into round number 3 in a week's time. But we come from our Drivers' Championships to our Teams' Championship. There's no prizes up for grab in this Teams' Championship. This is just purely for curiosity and reference. It is the case that after 1 round of racing, Goldwing Motorsports lead on 47 points, 4 ahead of Middle of the Pack Racing, and then they are the best part of 6 points ahead, jointly ahead of Blue Flag Motorsports and Sunday GT Turtles. Both outfits there putting in good performances at Interlagos. And we're looking to continue that momentum today and close the gap to Middle of the Pack Racing. In P5, DNA Racing are a further 8 points behind, and they are 12 points clear of Ascension Racing and Motus Racing. The last of our teams classified at the moment with points 14 to their tally, and unranked there, Delta Motorsports looking to make their debut in the series in the near future. Well, we come from our championship standings then to talk about our circuit for tonight, and that is the Red Bull Ring, located in the town or the region of Spielberg in the county or the actual continental region of Styria within the Austrian country. It is the case that this circuit consisting of 9 corners, starting off with Nicki Lauder corner, named after the aforementioned Formula 1 driver who departed from us a couple of years ago, but it is the case a much loved driver down in the Formula 1 paddocks of old, indeed in modern times. And they start off by running through Nicki Lauder, the right hand corner of turn 1. Then it's the long run up to Remus at turn 2 before coming through the hairpin and heading down towards Gusser at turn number 3 into a downhill braking zone. And then the circuit transitions from one that's all about the straights and late braking into one that's all about medium apexes for what is the rest of the circuit, where you've got the run from turn 3 all the way up to Power Horse at turn 5, also known as the Red Bull Statue Arena, turns 5 through to 7. Very tricky sequence of corners there. And then we have the run up towards Jochen Rindt corner at turn number 8. Again, a very famous name in motorsport, particularly in Formula 1. And then we have the A1 corner at turn number 9. Of course, A1 referring to the original name given to the Red Bull ring. It previously was known as the Österreich ring, alternatively the A1 ring. And this circuit map provides us by simracingwiki.com. Now, as for the rules, we can see there, in terms of setup, our drivers shall be running the iRacing baseline setup for all races. It is a fixed setup series. The only thing our drivers are allowed to change on the car is the brake bias. Otherwise, everything else is locked and they're not allowed to tweak it. Car fuel loads have been restricted to 32% for this round. It has been moved from 50% to 32% for this round, although I do believe it may be going back to 50% for the rest of this series, subject to a confirmation from our stewards. And then in terms of qualifying, it is the case. In qualifying, the session is broken into 2 equal halves, so the 15 minutes will consist of 7.5 minutes for our AM drivers and 7.5 minutes for our pro drivers, with the AMs going out ahead of the pro drivers. And then in terms of the sprint race itself, the race will start under manual double file rolling start, with the formation being held up to the start finish line, after which drivers may go racing. So you will see the safety car peeling in quite early, and our drivers will be given the green flag they can go racing, but they won't be going racing until the lead driver reaches the start finish line. Each driver will have one fast repair available, and the driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 25 or more instant points. Well, I think that's enough rules and regulations with regards to what is the racing around hand. You want to see all the racing on live screen? Indeed, we do as well. So we head back to live pictures here, and well, as our drivers are getting set now, it is the case that we can see Austin Farr here making his way out of turn number 3 and up towards turn 5. And as he does so, we're just under what is now 4 minutes of this final warm-up session to go. The Goldwing Motorsports driver currently leading the way in the Pro classification. Will he be able to hold that lead come the end of tonight, or will there be a change in the story? Well, we can see there in the Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage GT4 looking quite good so far, though not quite out there on the timing sheets, but again, he may be holding something back right now. As meanwhile, right up there, the DNA of racing driver of Jordan Butler in the McLaren GT4, the 570S GT4, looking very good indeed at this point in time as he rolls his way through the final corner there. And well, at 38.036, that will do him very well if he can achieve that in qualifying, but I can imagine that the lap times are going to be even faster. Will we see somebody jump into the 37s in qualifying perhaps? Well, we will wait and find out as he makes his way into the right-hander of turn number 1. But it's not just going to be about the pros tonight, of course. We do see Duncan Ray's here, the Goldwing Motorsports AM driver, rolling his way down through turn number 5, and that very distinctive black with gold liveried Aston Martin that the Goldwing Motorsports drivers bring, and the South African in particular here. And well, we'll wait to see. He's currently the fastest in this final warm-up session of any of our AM drivers, but of course the warm-up session is a very different story from the qualifying session. When you're put under pressure and when you've only got 7.5 minutes to deliver, it's the case that sometimes some drivers crack under the pressure, others withstand the pressure. And I think Duncan Race will be one of those ones who withstands the pressure quite admirably. As meanwhile, at the bottom end of the spectrum right now, I think still getting his feeling in and getting his feet into the car, Kenny B. Smith, as he makes his way up towards turn number 2 here. As we do see in front of him what is, well, the Aston Martin's the Delta Motorsport Aston Martin. I'm just trying to see who that is specifically, and I do believe that is Rocco Avath making his way down towards what is turn number 3 right now. And that very distinctive blue, black and grey, that light blue in particular, really bringing out the body of the Aston Martin machine as he makes his way on down. Now, keeping in mind, of course, that we do have a new season of iRacing on the horizon. It's going to be released later, not later this week, I should say, next week. It's crazy to think how the weeks are coming around now. What of the fact we're already into June of 2022, but we are expecting potentially the Mercedes AMG GT4 to arrive on the scene, and when it does, subject to it being cleared by stewards with regards to balance of performance, it may be the case that some of our drivers are given, or all of our drivers are given the opportunity to switch to the Mercedes, but we will wait and see how that plays out. Much like what we saw at the Hyundai Veloster back in the Touring Car Racing Championship earlier on this year, and that could throw up some additional conundrums into the works. But so far, it does seem as though we have seen that the Aston Martin and also the McLaren are the two strongest cars, or at least at Interlagos. The BMW very strong in the race conditions, and in qualifying, the Porsche being wielded by Jerome Bajulaz and also John Wilding, a very strong car in qualifying, but perhaps a little bit more sensitive over the distance of the race, with the fact that the car is quite leaning on its front tyres, puts a lot of work on its rear tyres, and that rear end can step out quite easily. And well, the Porsche Cayman 718 GT4 machine, where we see John Wilding sank off it today as he decides to do a little bit of a jump there, and well, I think that was the case, just jumping to the pit lane and deciding to chuck the car with it as he went through to the pit lane. But meanwhile, the drivers were still finishing off their final warm-up laps here. Not too long to go now, less than 30 seconds. And meanwhile, we do look over to the chat there. We can see both the YouTube and the Twitch chats, with the majority of you so far putting comments in the Twitch chat. It's great to see. We say hello to John Wilding, also Max Lee Porter 80. We can also see there, I believe, GT Eddie, and we've also got Psykowski and 91, and then I believe that is everybody. And so as a result, we've got, well, it's very nice to see you all tuning in. I hope you're all doing well and having a great weekend. But that is the end of the warm-up session. So we are go now for 15 minutes of qualifying. We just await the transition. But as we do now get that transition to the qualifying session here, it will be our AM drivers who make the way on out first and foremost, of course. And they'll be the ones who really do lay down some of that additional rubber for the pros to use later on. A bit cheeky, of course, that the AMs have got to do the work of bringing the circuit up to the best possible condition for the pros. But that's the way it does work out when you have split qualifying. But meanwhile, we do start to see, I believe, a leap to the first of our drivers to make the way on out. And indeed, the middle of the pack racing driver here in the very notable McLaren livery as he makes his way out and round through turn number 1. I believe there may be a few anime characters on the side. That, of course, anime referring to what is the shows presented in Japan, but making their way across more into the Western Hemisphere, particularly into the United States, and also into the European region. And what I can say as an anime fan myself, I'm not going to go into the specifics here, but it is the case. Anime is something not to be teased at, and you can definitely tune it out. It's got quite a following. I do believe that cars wrapped in anime liveries do have a following in Japan known as Itasha, unless I'm very much mistaken. And well, there can be some very exquisite liveries on cars, I will tell you that. I think the most notable one, if you want to look up on YouTube, somebody decided to put a Fox girl characterization onto the back plate of his Corvette Z06, unless I'm very much mistaken. But still, one for another, I believe that's Hatsune Miku on the side of the car. It is the case he rolls the car down through turn number 3 right now. Lee Porter giving himself plenty of space out on circuit. You can see on the circuit map there in the top right corner of your screen that the Red Bull Ring, whilst it is a very fast circuit in these GT4s and it's quite a fast lap, there is plenty of room out on the circuit. Now the challenge will be, do you qualify without a tow, or without the slipstream we should say, or do you try to get the slipstream when you lap? Well, for a Lee Porter, he's clearly wanting to put in a banker lap under his own momentum, and then he might try and get into the slipstream a little bit later, where some drivers may feel as though they need the tow just to offset perhaps the weaknesses of their lap, and the tow can be very powerful around here, worth up to half a second if now Gretley. But meanwhile, we jump on board here with Lee Porter as he takes us around for the first flying lap of this qualifying session at the Red Bull Ring. He's making his way out the final corner and gets it a bit wrong, then corner exit, but he's still going to commit to the lap and now making his way across that timeline. He's going to lose out about 3-4 tenths in the run towards turn 1. Heading up into turn 1, looking for his brake mark on left, that 100 metre board and coming down the gearbox all the way down to 3rd gear and accelerating on that apex there, using 2 wheels beyond the sausage curve to settle the car and now making his way up the hill towards turn number 2. Now as he charges all the way out towards Remus at this point, it's a case it's a very long run and it's an uphill braking zone, so you'll see he's in 5th gear at the moment. He'll look to brake as late as possible, breaking that 100 metre board and coming down the gearbox ferociously all the way down to 2nd gear, down to 1st on the apex, using that to rotate the rear of the car, and now accelerating out here. It's about running down towards turn number 3, and as he goes full throttle all the way down the hill, it is the case he'll be looking to try and brake a little bit earlier this time as he looks to his left here for his brake marker, braking before that 100 metre board, braking 110 metres, down from 5th, down to 3rd gear, down to 2nd on the entry into the apex, and now accelerating out here. The McLaren known for its rotation, and also its very strong acceleration out the corners, now rolling through 4 and up into turn 5, into the medium speed sweeper as he rolls over the elevation of the apex, and now as he starts to go downhill, it's an uphill entry into a downhill exit and making his way out of turn 5 into 6, downhill braking zone and chucking the car into the apex here. Just want a light dab of the brake and then get on the throttle as soon as possible. Understands a little bit wide of apex there, carried a bit too much speed on entry, and I don't think the tyres are up to temperature as he makes his way through 7 and now up into turn number 8 into Jochen Ring corner. A dab of the brakes, that 50 metre board awaits. And as he brings the car in down to 4th gear, nice and smooth, reapplies the throttle, uses the runoff curving, and now down into the A1 corner of turn number 9 to complete lap, runs completely over the apex curve there, and just being mindful of the track limits, and across the line Lee Porter goes, and this will be his first flying lap, and it's going to be a 39.723. Not a bad lap to kick off the AM qualification session. I think there's plenty more out there as we do see some more lap times coming in. And well, we do have Rodney Felker here, the last of our drivers to go around, and goes very deep under braking there And in fact, Rodney Felker almost understeering completely off circuit through turn number 6. And I do think it's the case they're struggling with tyre temperatures at the moment, the GT4 drivers, keeping in mind, of course, that these drivers do not have tyre blankets, or at least I don't think they have tyre blankets. It's the case they go out there on cold tyres and have to warm them up manually compared to GT3 or upper class machinery within the GT categories. But right now, those laps are coming in. Fernando Takahashi, provisional pole on a 39.7. We'll cut to him very shortly, but as Rodney Felker comes across the line, it's going to be a difficult lap for Felker. He comes across, and well, in the end, it is a 41.0. That puts him P5, but there's still plenty of laps and plenty of lap time out there. We know 38s are possible in the hands of our Rams, but meanwhile, we do see Fernando Takahashi here making his way down to the braking zone for turn number 3 once again. And the BMW M4, of course, as we said earlier, a very stable platform, front engine, rear wheel drive German machinery here. And as he rolls his way up towards turn number 5, is the case that this car may go very well at the Red Bull Ring for the simple reason it is a car you can abuse very aggressively. Unlike the mid-engine rear wheel drive machines such as the McLaren and the Porsche, it is the case that this car under braking, unless you set the brake bites really far back and play around with the steering lock on entry, this car will be very solid under braking. The only thing, of course, is because all the weight's towards the front of the car and it front loads very heavily under braking, it does mean you have to battle with quite a bit of understeer, but it does seem as though Takahashi's got that now down at this moment as he makes his way into turn at number 8 here and rolling on through. It looks as though he's going quite slowly, to be fair, but what we normally say is a slow and smooth appearing lap is normally a very fast lap, and as he makes his way out the final corner, will Lee Porter improves to 39.541, and what about Takahashi? Does he respond in kind? He crosses the line, it's 39.240, so indeed Takahashi does improve considerably. He's now 0.3 of a second faster, and the track is evolving by looks of things quite rapidly indeed, as we see a 39.099 for Jermaine Warren, and well, he is our AM Championship leader going into this round, and he is looking very strong so far, as we do see a Takahashi fan there in the YouTube chat. That's Claudio Oliveira, and cheering on Takahashi, go RPRT. Well, that's very good to see. Then, of course, let me know who you're cheering on in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. But as this session starts to make its way to the end for our AMs, the fact they've only really got one lap left in the tank here in regards to time. We're here that Rodney Felker's coming to the line. He improves, but it's only a personal best improvement, not a place improvement, a 40.585. And well, now everybody winding on down. I think Lee Porter may be able to get another lap in, but it's going to be very nip and tuck. As they roll on round now, we do look toward is there Duncan Moraes, who the Goldwing Motorsports driver, as he makes his way out of turn at number 2 and heads down towards 3 right now. The Aston Martin Racing V8 Vantage driver here. We do know the Aston Martin very strong with regards to its acceleration, although to be fair, one thing about this machine, of course, is I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, unless it's the GT3 machine only, I think it may actually use a turbo to supplement the V8 engine, and if so, that turbo banding might be a little bit punishing if it's not optimized for the car for this circuit, but we wait and see. But as he rolls his way through at turn number 5 right now, looking very smooth at the helm, and as he heads down through 5 and into 6, it is the case that the new number 233 driver looking to try and hold on to that pole position as he heads on through. As we say hello to Jason Lantry in the YouTube chat. We hope you're doing well, Jason, and indeed to anyone who's tuned in since the start of the show, hope you're smiling and having a great weekend. But as he rolls on down there, it's only 2 more corners to go, and he will have 1 more lap after this. He will just sneak in another lap as Jermaine Warren goes fastest by what is 2.5 tenths versus Duncan Rays, and will Warren with 38.533, but Rays goes wide. He will get 1 more lap, but that's going to cost him, didn't he? He has to take a slowdown for his troubles, and now effectively his qualifying session over, because that slowdown will compromise his next lap, and Duncan Rays in the end falls short of taking that pole position. Can anybody stop what is Jermaine Warren? As we can see that Kenny Smith crosses the line, and he does not improve, and he won't be allowed another lap as our pros are now making their way out of the pit lane. But meanwhile, whilst we see Smith making his way into turn number 1, we can see all of our pros now heading out. Smith will be required to head home. We've still got a couple of drives out on circuit putting in laps, and Lee Porter in particular, he's down in sector 1 compared to his previous best. What about in sector 2 as he comes towards the timeline for sector 2, which will be midway between turns 5 and 6. The McLaren driver here rolls his way through, and as he does, it is the case he does not improve in sector 2 either. I think Lee Porter may be coming to the pits at the end of this one, because it's not an improving lap, and Fernando Takahashi and Jermaine Warren looking as though they're not improving either. I think it could be the case that Jermaine Warren will be taking that pole position in the end by 2.5 tenths versus Duncan Moraes. As we see Lee Porter coming around, will he complete the lap? Will he peel on in? He does come around to complete the lap. He runs a bit wide there. That may be a compromise to his final sector. Indeed, he rolls off the circuit there. I think he knows it's all said and done. Or what about Fernando Takahashi? Well, he's taking it very slowly here. This is an in-lap, I believe, as he rolls the car through turn number 8. He's going to peel on in, and that means Jermaine Warren, ladies and gentlemen, is your AM pole sitter for this race as he makes his way in. And now we look to our pros, and our pros are all heading around in a bit of a different fashion here. Whereas our AMs decide to spread out, our pros all seem to be racing their way around here, and what you can understand why, I think it's going to be very close, and it will be Jordan Butler who's going to be the lead pro driver to go on to the first flying lap of the pro qualification session. For as he makes his way down into turn number 9 right now, we ride on board here with Jordan Butler to give you an idea of what it's like in the hands of a pro to set a lap around here. Keep in mind, of course, these tyres need to get up to temperature, so he may be fighting against the grain a little bit as he crosses that timing line. Turn up towards turn number 1 here in 5th gear at the moment, and looking to come down that gearbox, breaking the 100 metres board down to 3rd, chucks the car over apex, and what a very nice transition weight there coming through the apex, and when you can see how he's able to get on the throttle nice and early, now making his way up towards turn number 2, charging up the hill here, shifting as late as possible, trying to stay as high in the RPM band as possible, and as he makes his way into the braking zone here into Remus, breaking that 100 metres board, using as much apex curve, entry curve into the apex as possible, we should say, now rolling around, gets a little bit of oversteer on exit, but corrects it nicely, and now heading down towards turn number 3. And as he makes his way down the hill here and heading down towards the very tricky right-hander of 3, looking for that downhill braking zone, braking at about 110 metres, much like what we saw of our onboard laps in the AM class, rolling through, goes a little bit wide of apex there, but that cost him not too much, it'll cost him about a 10th in all, and as he heads through 4, now up towards 5, you'll see he'll bring the car over to the right and get ready to go into the very tricky turn 5 apex, where you want to get a nice early apex and get the car hooked up on that apex curve if possible, so you can pull the car around. This is the apex curve, but still a very smooth run through the corner. Now down to turn number 6 here, and as he heads on through, getting on that power right on the apex, and now charging through 7, and that's flat out all the way up towards turn 8, and that's the line you want through turn 6 and 7. You want to be on the throttle as soon as you meet that apex curve at turn number 6, and that is where the lap time lies. Now rolling his way into Jochen Ring corner here in 4th gear, takes an absolute plethora of apex curve to chuck the car around, and now making his way down into A1 corner, that's turn number 9. It's looking a very good lap here for Jordan Butler, but will it be good enough to take pole by the end of it, or at least set the stance of pole, where it's a 38.798. Where do all the other laps sit by comparison? Austin Farr, they're not too far off, nor is John Lauzon. It does look as though so far, and then well, I say that, and then Henry Morse comes through and just smashes the lap time out of the park with 38.319. Well, Goldwing Motorsports, I think, are here to stay, and they're definitely here to convey a message, which is that they have got a lot of lap time under their belt, and it's the Aston Martin V8 Vantage of what is Henry Morse right now that has set time screens light, and for him to do that on his first flying lap of the session, where the tyres are not quite up to temperature, I think that's a sign we could be looking at a 38.0 of the pole position here today, or perhaps even a high 37 as he rolls his way through turn number 2. And behind him there, and interestingly, having a difficult start to this qualifying session, Jerome Bajulaz, who has not right now really had much luck with time, but to be fair, you can see the Porsche driver here tucking into the distant toe of Henry Morse, and I think he might be doing a little bit of surveillance work here, a bit of cheeky surveillance work with regards to keeping an eye on where Henry Morse is trying to gain that lap time. He's perhaps studying Henry Morse right now to see how does he approach a particular apex. Does he go into the apex early? Does he take it late? How does he manage the direction change between certain corners? But Henry Morse, I think, wise that and letting Bajulaz through here, as Bajulaz on another lap. And in terms of his sector time so far, he is improving compared to his previous best, but his previous lap was not that strong, of course, a 43.27. The Porsche 718 driver right now, I think, has got a lot of work to do if he wants to get right up there. As we continue to follow him through turn 7, takes a bit of gravel there as he transitions from 6 to 7. Now making his way up towards turn number 8, and the Porsche, we're not expecting the Porsche to be that strong here at the Red Bull Ring, as this is a power circuit compared to Interlagos being a more of an all-rounder circuit, but we will wait and see as he makes his way through 8 and down towards 9, and as he rolls the car through corners such as turns 8 and 9, that's what the Porsche will do very well, because it can carry more speed through the apex. And as Bajulaz comes to the line, what will it be this time around? It's an improvement of 39.383, but it's nowhere near to get him up the front of the class. And well, now we do look to what is Austin Farr here as he makes his way up the hill towards Remus once again. He's currently P4 overall, that's P3 in class, and well, Jermaine Warren's put himself right up there, and I reckon Jermaine Warren could get himself ahead of a number of pros and give himself a bit of a buffer zone when we go racing versus his AM peers behind him right now. As you can see, the pro pack is really split amongst what is the top 4 AM drivers, where Jermaine Warren having 4 pros between himself and then Duncan Reyes and Lee Porter, and then Edwin and Offrey there being separated from what is Horvath and Butler, and ahead of Bajulaz with Takahashi between them. So it is going to be, I think, a very mixed grid here at the Red Bull Ring. But that does happen in these GT4 machines. These cars, of course, can be very similar on lap time, and that goes to show you how the AMs are really pushing to deliver the best they can, and at the same time the pros are sweating a little bit in order to be able to deliver that ultimate lap time that makes them the pros. As we can see, Austin Farr here rolling his way down in towards turn number 6, and as he comes on through there a bit wide of apex, and it does look as though the Aston Martin really struggling in that downhill braking zone to 6, just cannot get the nose to tuck into the corner, much like the other cars, but particularly the McLaren seems to thrive very well in that downhill braking zone, but the Aston Martin seems to have that innate understeer that just stops it from getting hooked into the apex. We've got 1 minute of this qualifying session to go, so everyone will be going on to one final lap at this point, and as Austin Farr comes on through, our championship leader in the pro classification, he comes to the timeline, and what will it be this time around? It's not an improvement, but we will ride on board here for one more lap, and let's see from the perspective of the advantage. On his way through turn number 1 there, you can see takes a very large amount of apex curve, and to be fair, the Aston Martin can do that. A very heavy car in terms of the way is transitioned over car, and therefore you can be a bit more aggressive with those apex curves. And as he charges up towards turn number 2 and heads in towards the braking zone for Remus, looking at a brake marker, but braking at 100 metres, will come in all the way down from 5th into 2nd when he used first. Now he stays in 2nd, interestingly enough, and now accelerates out of the corner. A very immediate upshift to 3rd gear, and that shows you how tight the gearbox is between 2nd, 3rd and also 4th, as he now starts to extend the gear range up into 5th. He won't be touching 6th surely before this braking zone. He'll be right on the limiter, and now braking at 100 metres exactly, and well, is it a bit too late? No, it's not, as Rocco Buff just crosses the line and sets a lap time just before the checkered flag comes out, so he will have one more lap, we believe, but Edwin Offred will not, but he goes P4, and that's it overall and in the pro class. But we stay here with what is Austin Farr, as he struggles a little bit on trying to enter into turn number 5. You can see him having to fight at the steering wheel there to get the car to bite in on the nose. Going through turn 6 is a much smoother run this time through turn number 6, but he loses the rear of the car, and the car goes sliding into the wall there, and it just shows you how hard he was trying to make the car work out of 6 into 7. That's a jump to the pits, and when we have not got any more drivers coming on through, we've got Jordan Butler here making his way around to complete what is his qualifying lap, and as he does, he's currently P2. Can he pip Henry Morse to pole? He crosses the line, and what will it be for the McLaren driver? It's not enough. What about elsewhere? We've got John Lauzon coming on through in the McLaren as well. He crosses the line. It's an improvement of 38.5, but not enough to move from P6. John Wilding crosses the line, goes 39.1. That's good enough for P10 overall. We've still got Rocco Abuff making his way around the circuit. The last of our drivers here on a valid qualifying lap, we should say, with the fact he just literally crossed the line as the checkered flag waves. So I think it's legitimate by, say, a hair's width of time. But as he rolls his way through turn 2, he's not improving in the, well, not turn 2, sector 2. He's not improved in sector 2. And as he heads up towards turns 8 to 9 in short order, will Huff be able to improve from P3 in the pro class and P3 overall, or will Henry Morse have his day in the sunshine with regards to that pole lap? Well, Rocco Huff peels into the pits. It will be the case that Henry Morse takes pole position in the pro class and overall as well, with 38.319, a tenth faster than Jordan Butler. But if that is qualifying, I can tell you right now, it's going to be very close in the race, because from pole position all the way down to P10, it is the case that our drivers only, well, in fact, all the way down to P12 overall, our drivers separated by 1 second. That shows you how close it is when you incorporate the pros and the AMs together. But Henry Morse on pole for the pros, and it is Jermaine Warren on pole, I should say, for the AMs. And now we wait to make our way into gridding for the race. And as we continue to wait here, the transition should come within the next 30 seconds or so. We can see a comment there from Jason Landry in the YouTube chat to say that Jermaine, as in Jermaine Warren, really meshing well with the GT4s, and indeed, Jermaine Warren really seems to come in alive, and so far that's 2 out of 2 with regards to pole positions. And well, can he make it 2 out of 2 with regards to the race, as we now take you through the starting grid? So line up on pole on the front row is Henry Morse from Goldwing Motorsports, taking the overall pole position and the pro pole position, 1/10 faster than Jordan Butler from DNA Racing. Meanwhile, on the second row, Rocco Abuff from Delta Motorsports, joined by Ascension Racing's Edwin Offred there, closely fought between the top 4, with Jermaine Warren P5 on the third row for MOP Racing. He lines up the pole sitter of the AM class, and alongside him John Lauzon from Blue Flag Motorsports. On row number 4, it's Austin Farr from Goldwing Motorsports, joined by Duncan Moraes from Goldwing Motorsports as well, the pro ahead of the AM, and then behind them is Lee Porter from MOP Racing, starting off our 5th row in P9, the AM driver joined by the pro of John Wilding from DNA Racing in P10. And on the 6th row, Fernando Takahashi, the privateer, with Mark Senegal from Sunday GT Turtles, line up alongside him, the 2 AMs there on row number 6. And then behind them we have Kenny B. Smith, line up P13, the privateer. He's joined by Rodney Felker, the privateer, as well on P14. And then we have Justin Bragan from MOP Racing qualifying ahead of Jerome Bajulaz, but both drivers not setting a lap time, struggling in qualifying, and they will have it all to do in the race as we now get ready to go racing. The camera pans round as the safety car is about to pull away, and as it does, we will see it will be the case that Henry Morse is to take our drivers away for 20 minutes of racing at the Spielberg Circuit. And as we look to the blimp camera here, everybody tucking in behind as they make the way on through. And Henry Morse a little bit behind and now getting himself into the correct position in this grid formation, as it will be, of course, that manual double fold rolling start where we kick off the racing at the start-finish line. But you can see all 16 of our drivers now getting into that formation, all doing their little spurts forward in terms of accelerating and slamming on the brakes to try and get a little bit of tyre temperature. And now as they make their way under the tree line there, and we switch to the closer cameras, and Jerome Bajulaz will have it all to do from the back of the field. Can he come through for Blue Flag Motorsports and pull off a brilliant result to keep him in the championship hunt? We will wait and see as they make the way down, and it will now be to Henry Morse to take us away to the green. Lights out and away we go as they make the way across the start-finish line and head up towards turn number 1. Henry Moore's getting a very good start with Rocco above, having to defend on the inside versus Jordan Butler. Butler trying to go round the outside into turn number 1. I think Butler may have the cause here as he's got the momentum. A bit further back we can see Edwin Offred battling side by side with John Laus on a similar approach. As meanwhile a bit further back we can see a couple of the BMWs struggling, but meanwhile Rocco above, he's not letting this go, but it looks so Jordan Butler's getting the better run as they head up towards turn number 2, and as they do into the braking zone. A little bit further back we can see John Laus on there on the inside versus Edwin Offer on the outside as they make their way through Remus, and the two of them still side by side, but it does look as though John Lauzon getting the better exit. He's got the traction as well in that McLaren, and as they head on down now a little bit further back, we can tell you that Jermaine Warren still leads the AM class, but he's got some pressure behind him in the form of Duncan Moraes, as all our drivers had a rather uneventful opening couple of laps. We normally see a few little contacts, but to be fair, nothing too major. But there is Austin Farr making a major pass on Edwin Offer there for P5 in the pro class as they came down into turn number 3, right up the inside there and just creeping on through. I think Offer just settling into a rhythm here and not fighting too hard on the open lap. We've got 20 minutes. It is a sprint, but it is the case that 20 minutes will feel quite long. That is a good few laps worth of racing as they all make their way down through 5 and in towards turn number 6. As we look to Jermaine Warren here, already starting to open up a small gap versus Duncan Moraes, who gives pursuit. But the MOP Racing driver here just looking calm and collected as they roll their way on through. But as they roll their way up towards where turn at number 8, we can see a bit further back there, Jerome Bajulaz gaining some places. He's now up to P12 overall. He's already gained since the start, and as he makes his way down to the braking zone for turn number 8, he does look to be starting to put some pressure on Mark Senegal and John Wilding, a bit out of position there, the Porsche driver, as they came through 8 and into 9. But as they come across the timeline for the first time to go on to lap number 2, it is Henry Morse leading ahead of Jordan Butler in P2, followed by Rocker Abuff in P3 behind. Then we have John Laz on P4, followed by what is Austin Farr P5. Behind them we've got Edwin Offer in P6, then Jermaine Warren P7, Duncan Moraes P8, followed by Lee Porter and John Wilding P9, P10. Behind them Jerome Bajulaz, who's got his way through up to P11 now, chasing after John Wilding. The first battle he will have with a fellow pro class driver. He's P11 with Mark Senegal behind P12. Kenny B. Smith P13, battling right now with Fernando Takahashi. It's Aston Martin on the outside, BMW on the inside as they make their way up towards Remus at turn number 2. And as they head up here, it's going to be Fernando Takahashi who has that inside defensive line. He will have the right to brake to the apex, and Kenny B. Smith will have to go all the way around the outside. They give one other plenty of room, and as they do, Mark Senegal ahead gets a really bad run out the corner. They could be encroaching upon him and making it a three-way battle for effective what would be P12 overall or P4 in the AM class as they head down the hill, but I don't think it's going to materialise here. I think Senegal's got enough light of day as they make their way down, but Kenny B. Smith on that outside still. He looks at the potential cut back up the inside, but he finds a face full of Fernando Takahashi's BMW M4 as they come out to turn number 3. Nice defence there from Takahashi. Meanwhile, a little bit further up, you can see Lee Porter here from MOP Racing in a bit of a difficult situation as we see Jerome Bajulaz looking to go round the outside of what is there John Wilding. The two Porsche drivers battling for what is effectively P7 in the pro class, and as they roll their way through the left-hander at turn number 6 into 7, Jerome Bajulaz Bajulaz will have the inside run now from 7 up to 8 and 9. Who's going to back out if either of them? They're side by side, the two Porsche drivers here, and well, they may not be battling for the big points, but they're battling for the right to be the best Porsche on circuit as they roll their way to the corner. Bajulaz there on the inside, and well, he's given the space and great respectful racing between these two. But I think in the end, Wilding known he's got to back out because it's only one car into turn number 9, but he goes to the cutback there. But Bajulaz covers him off very nicely, and Mark Senegal now trying to get into this fight as the AM driver here wants a piece of the action as they make their way across the timeline and up towards turn number 1. Onto lap 3 they go. Senegal up the inside, and he's got it covered off here, but now it will be the case that we can see Wilding gets very close on exit. He has to back off, and that's going to cost him a bit of momentum up the hill. But meanwhile, we look from them to a battle for P2 in what is the Pro Class here, and you can see Rocco back from the Delta Motorsports Aston Martin trying to find a way past Jordan Butler. He can't find it at the moment. He's inching ever closer, and nobody really breaking away at the moment. Our top 3 are sneaking off slightly into the distance, but not by much. They've only got a second's advantage over Austin Farr in P4, and this goes to show you how close it really is around the Red Bull Ring, and why you have to be so smart with the draft here in order to be able to break away. And I think Rocco Buff at this point will be thinking more about just trying to stay with the 2 leaders rather than worrying about overtaking Butler. He'll look to start making those overtakes or those attacks into the final 10 minutes of this race where he starts to get clear. Because a little bit of battling can bring you all the way back, and given the number of straightaways we have at this circuit, particularly in the opening sector, you can just imagine how aggressive drivers will get looking for those positions, particularly if they feel as though they haven't got as quick a lap time around here as some of those peers, and indeed the qualifying will have articulated that to certain drivers as they roll them through. Now we are seeing a bit of separation from what is the top points of our field to the bottom half of our field, particularly from P8 to P9. There is a gap open up between where's Duncan Ray's and Lee Porter at 4.1 seconds, but Jordan Butler getting very dicey now as we ride on board here with the McLaren driver looking for that opportunity to try and take the lead of the race over Henry Morse. Morse a little bit unsettled there coming out of turn number 9, and Jordan Butler gets in very close. He sets the personal best for the 38.682. The lap time's coming down with the fuel in the car as they roll their way into turn number 1. Now as they come on through, you can see very aggressive. Oh goodness me, again a little bit of a tank slapper there in corner exit. The rear just coming around. I think that may have been the case because he tried getting the throttle down to settle the rear of the car down, but he had to lift off, and Henry Morse was so close to him he had to lift off, otherwise he would have made contact with the back of the Aston Martin driver. But as he looks at the move here up and through, he's going to try and go around the outside, under braking, and this could be for the lead as they make their way through the hairpin. And well, Jordan Butler's now going to have the longer run down towards turn 3. Henry Morse will be able to defend it on the inside. It's a long charge down. It takes a lifetime here. Then as they make their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 3, it's Butler on the outside. It's Morse on the inside. Morse on the left-hand side of the camera. And as they transition under braking, Morse stays there on the inside line. You can see Rocco Avath now getting right into the thick of this. As behind, you can see there, John Lauzon going a little bit deep into turn number 3 as Austin fires to try and hold him off. It's getting very dicey at the front for the top 5 in the Pro Class as they make their way down in towards turn number 5. And as they do, the story is a little bit different. Meanwhile, in the AM Class with Jermaine Warren leading at the moment ahead of Duncan Ray's by 1.2 seconds. But the battles could kick off a little bit later. We'll keep our eyes on that, I assure you, as they make their way out to 6th into 7 and now head up towards Jochen Rindt corner once again. But as they do, it is the case. We're only 6 minutes in. We've still got 14 minutes to go, but we're already started to see a few elbows come out, and we are starting to see some drivers really extend the legs, extend the pace as they roll their way down through 8 and into 9. And as they do, Rocco Avath really now coming to life here, chasing after Jordan Butler. And I do wonder if the Delta Motorsports drivers are identified. Now is the time to strike as they make the way up towards turn number 1. But as they do, will he look for the move? No, he's going to wait for the time being. But meanwhile, at the back of the field, I can tell you that Rodney Felker has just found his way past Kenny Smith as they make their way on to another lap here. And now Felker is chasing after Fernando Takahashi ahead in the battle for P6 in the AM Class. And as they roll their way up into turn number 1, we'll wait to see whether they do get any closer in short order, but not so far, although be fair, Rodney Felker actually getting a really good run coming out of turn number 1, and as they head up towards the braking zone of turn number 2, it's a long run. You can see here the Aston Martin starting to gain the legs on the BMW, but Takahashi goes defensive. He knows it's coming. He knows he's going to have to defend, but Takahashi does have that comfort under braking. You can see there, it looks like a box almost braking that BMW M4, but it looks so steady, and that's what Takahashi can exploit here, is the fact that he just has so much more to play with under braking compared to some of the other cars. As meanwhile, you see Lee Porter here here. Well, he's not got much to play with. He's got to take a very tight inside line into turn 3. He's got the pressure of what is Justin Bragg, Mark Senegal, and also John Wilding behind. And as we look from the gearbox here of League Force from MOP Racing, how the tables have turned. He was up there in the battle for the lead, and now he's battling for P3 in the AM class and trying to hold on for dear life as the MOP Racing driver here has Justin Bragg literally slithering all over the back of him, and that BMW looking very, very aggressive. And you can imagine if it was the latest BMW M4 competition with his chunky grille, it'd be looking even more aggressive. But still, I think Justin Bragg will be bearing his fangs very shortly as they make the way up towards turn at number 8 here. Now, how will it play out as they head into the right-hander? Well, I think there's no move this time around. I think Lee Porter's safe for another lap as they make the way down around through 8 and into 9. But as they come on through into the braking zone for 9, you can see here how Bajulaz right on the limit. In fact, oh goodness me, just going a little bit wide there, Lee Porter, but able to just keep it in track limits. And you can see how Justin Bragg actually losing out massively there in the transition through 9, and now he's under pressure from Mark Senegal. Mark Senegal looking up the inside into 1, but Bragg now able to outbrake Senegal, who was on that tighter line. And of course, when you go tight into turn 1, you do have to brake about 10 to 20 metres earlier than normal. And now you can see how Senegal under pressure from John Wilding, and the pro driver here just had no luck today. He can't find his way past the AMs. He has not got the pace in that Porsche 718. He's having to battle with the AMs, and well, with that pace being so relatively close, you can understand why as they make the way through Remus once again. But as they roll their way through turn number 2, we do look from what is the battle here for P10 overall, P3 in the AM class, all the way back up to our leaders. And as they make the way out to turn number 3, you can see Henry Morse now is starting to creep away, and I think Jordan Butler here is starting to lose a bit of the pace. Whereas they roll their way through what is turn at number 5, the gap has opened up considerably. And in fact, we can see now Rocco Buff battling with Austin Farr here, and the Delta Motorsports driver, well, he'll want to go after Jordan Butler. He's not going to be given the right to. It's the case that Austin Farr now really coming alive as we see Jordan Butler goes off track at turn 7. This is going to really step its momentum. Butler on the outside, Rocco Buff on the inside, coming up into 8. I think Rocco Buff's got it all said and done as they roll their way through the right-hander. And as they do, they give one another plenty of room. Rocco Buff takes P2 in the class, and meanwhile Jordan Butler just has to tuck back in. And we're right at the back of this in the popcorn seat view. John Lauzon giving pursuit here as we ride on board with John Lauzon, who's at the back of this pack of 4, and he's looking for the potential move here, heading into 1. He senses there's an opportunity, but he doesn't go for it. I think very wise. If he was to try and snake out the inside, I think it'd be the case. He'd have a lot to answer for, given how close they're all running. And as they make the way out to 1 and head up the hill towards 2, I think John Lauzon now just tucking into the triple slipstream and making his way comfortably up the hill and waiting for an opportunity to rise. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. You've still got 10 minutes past the final lap of this race. You've got to be patient and look for when other drivers make mistakes, when they start to get dicey, and when they leave the door open for you to make a position. Because right now, it could be the case that his opponents in front all start to battle, and he could gain more than 1 place for a simple sweep. And as he makes his way all the way down towards 3, he'll keep that in mind. Edwin Offray not too far back either, in what is only 7 tenths back in the Aston Martin. But right now we focus here on that battle for P2 in the Pro class, and it could not be closer. And how this is all going to be playing out, only time will tell, as it looks as though there Jordan Butler going a bit wide, getting all sorts of wrong, coming out of turn number 3, and he tucks back in behind Austin Farr. That's one mistake which Lauzon was not able to capitalise on, but it does look as though in the battle of the fastest cars here, where it's the Aston Martin and the McLaren does seem to fall off a little bit in the race. But we are also hearing at the moment there might be a rumour that some of the McLarens are having to do some extra fuel saving here due to the fact they've only got 32% of the fuel tank in the car, and if so, that will be hurting them considerably as they make the way around, and particularly in these final few laps, given the fact they'll have to worry about defending position, putting in lap time, and also having enough fuel to go to the end, which is not what you want as a driver. But we will wait and see whether that is what plays out in cause. It's just a rumour we're hearing right now, but the Aston Martins, by comparison with Henry Morse at the front of the pack, definitely running off into the distance. He's got an advantage of 1.1 seconds. It's not much, but given how close it's been so far over the course of the race, and that will feel like a lifetime's worth of gap. And in terms of the time remaining, 8 minutes remaining, that last lap of 38.91 versus Rocco Buff on the 38.3. Rocco Buff now, I think, opening up the cylinders and starting to go hunting after the win. I think Rocco Buff will be looking at this and thinking, I can make a win out of this one, and that will be very critical for Delta Motorsports in terms of getting their championship campaign as a team off to a flying start. Indeed for Rocco Buff himself, as he makes his way out of Remus corner there, gets a little bit wrong on exit, but it keeps it together all the same. But Austin Farr looking menacing behind as they head on down. But this long snake train of GT4s, it's beautiful to see how they're all still running so close together, and as they make the way down into 3, no changes at the moment, but at any moment it could all kick off once again. As we look from them, we look to our GT4 for AM leaders, and that is Jerome Warren in particular, who, as we see Jordan Butler, they're getting it wrong again, going a bit wide, coming out to 3, and I think Butler really starting to fall away with regards to the tyres. The car just not in a happy place after being worked so much for DNA Racing driver, and Jerome Warren closing up onto the back of what is this pro pack, and the MOP Racing Drive won't gain any points for it, but meanwhile we must look at points being prizes here as Mark Senegal up the inside of what is there. That's Lee Porter in the battle for P4 in the AM class, and also as they roll their way through, it's the case that John Wilding just has to watch this in the Porsche and think to himself, oh, for goodness sake, guys, can you just give it a break? And they're not going to give it a break, most definitely. The pro driver's going to have to watch it. I don't think he's got the pace to pass them and run off into the distance, and instead he has to just cautiously watch and look at an opportunity to try and snake his way on through, and that Porsche definitely not looking fast today. And to give you an update on Jerome Bajulaz, who started at the back, he's up to P9 overall. That's P7 in the pro class. He's only passed John Wilding so far, who we're looking at, and that shows you the Porsche just not enjoying this circuit compared to the peers today. But as they head on up, we do look back to that battle for P2 in the pro class here, and overall, as Austin Farr up the rear of what is Rocco above in the runs of Remus. He's looking up the inside, Austin Farr, and I think trying to give himself a little bit of an opportunity to make it a Goldwing Motorsports 1-2 with Henry Morse, the lead driver in the Goldwing Motorsports pack, and Austin Farr takes the position there in traditional style up the inside into Remus, and Rocco above not fighting this one too hard. I think Haraf's thinking more about the late game in terms of the fact that right now Lauzon and Onofre are not too far behind, and they've still got 6 minutes plus the final lap to go. I think Rocco Abov's the one who's playing this the most sensibly out of all the drivers in the field, really not fighting for position, just taking positions when they arise, and then everything else he'll save to the very end. But is he leaving it too late? That's the question, given the fact we haven't got long left in the race. And well, now that Austin Farr is ahead, you can imagine that Austin Farr as a minimum will do everything to hold on to that P2 and enable Henry Morse to disappear from the distance, not because he's following team orders, but because Goldwing Motorsports will want that 1-2, and Austin Farr I think would love to take a second place as a minimum. Of course, he'll want to win, much like Henry Morse will. They're both teammates, but at the end of the day, they're battling in the Drivers' Championship, and Austin Farr took the win last time out, so he'd want to make it 2 out of 2, but I think it's the case as well. If it gets very close towards the end, he'll settle for second, and that will still keep him well ahead in that championship campaign. We will wait and see as they head across the timeline. 5 more minutes to go, and as the clock continues to count down, it is the case that a little bit further back, Rodney Felker and Kenny Smith in the battle for P7 of the AM class, P15 overall. I think they settled their differences, and it's a 7/10 of a second gap in favour of Rodney Felker so far. As they head on up towards turn number 2 this time around, we're definitely seeing the McLarens falling off a little bit here. I do wonder whether they've got a fuel issue with regards to the amount of fuel they've got available to the end of the race, because Jordan Butler in particular, you can see him there at the rear of the top 6 running in that P6 position, and the lap times have just slowly trickled off, and he's had a couple of mistakes to be fair, but it doesn't explain the fact he's not right up there anymore. And as they make their way down towards turn at number 3, you can see Jermaine Warren then leading the sort of second pack in this lead group. He's in that P7 position ahead of Duncan Moraes. As they roll the way on down, the thing that Jermaine Warren's got to worry about here is the Goldwing Motorsports driver Duncan Moraes, who is starting to inch closer. They are literally trading lap times, both of them at 38.85 last time around. There's nothing between them, and it's only a 1.6 second gap that is keeping Jermaine Warren ahead, and he's had to work for that gap, there's no doubt about that. But Duncan Moraes really starting to come alive in the latter portion of this race, and the Goldwing Motorsports driver here, I think, enjoying the car, enjoying it more in race trim than in qualifying trim, and it shows. But as he rolls his way through 6 and 7, that gap's opened up by another 10, and I think it's sector 2 where Jermaine Warren gets the job done as they head on through and up towards turn number 8. But as they make their way through turn 8, we come to drivers who've already passing their way through turn number 9. That's Henry Morse, and as we look on board and ride on the gearbox here of Henry Morse, the Goldwing Motorsports leader right now, he's got his teammate right behind Austin Farr. They haven't got too many more laps left, approximately 2 to 3 more laps remaining, including the one they've gone on to, and Henry Morse under pressure here with Austin Farr very close, and you can't see him, but I can promise you that Rocco above is literally behind Austin Farr as they make their way up the hill towards turn number 2. And well, you've got also John Lauzon only a half a second off of the back of Rocco above as Henry Morse goes defensive here. They make their way up the hill, and as they do, it's Morse on the inside on the left of your picture. It's Farr on the right hand side, and as the camera turns around, Henry Morse holds that inside line. He doesn't get caught out by the cutback either as he makes Austin Farr go deep into the corner with him. And now as they make their way down towards turn number 3, Rocco Rocco above is right there looking for the opportunity to go on the offensive as the Delta Motorsport driver here just playing his cards right, and you can see how Henry Moore's having to go defensive again into the heavy braking zone here, and Rocco above will look at this as an opportunity to creep up the inside, but he's not quite able to. Quarter exit as they roll the way through 4 and 5, and as they do now, they make the way up towards the tricky left-hander of 5 and rolling on through. You can see that John Lauzon has closed back up here in P4, and I think he's got enough fuel to go to the end now. I think he's got it as they make the way down to turn number 6, and could Lauzon potentially steal away a podium position here given the pace he has been showing since the start of this race. We will wait with trepidation as they make the way out of 7 and up towards 8. Edwin Offred 1.5 seconds off this battle for the top 4 positions right now, and I think just trying to coast it to the end as they roll the way on through. Rocco above looking very dicey. They have 2 more laps once they come across the finish line this time around. It is the case. We've got 2 more laps of racing. They roll the way on through. We ride on board here. Rocco above, who drops a little bit of pace coming out the final corner, but he will be set up very nicely for the run to 2 if he nails turn 1. And as they make the way into the braking zone for turn 1, you can see how much of a gap he has as we're hitting the John Wilding has just found his way past Mark Senegal for P11 overall. But as they exit the corner now, you can see that little bob and weave of Henry Morse there, just trying to break the initial toe of Austin Farr. But as they make the way on up into the braking zone, now Henry Morse will go defensive. Where will Rocco above find himself in this battle as Henry Morse gets a nose ahead on the left-hand side of the pair of them? But it's the case that Morse gets it nicely tucked in, and as they roll them through, they stay as they were. But you can see there in the television camera, which is available to Rocco above in the centre panel of the car, he's got a face full of a McLaren right behind him, and I wonder if it says on that monitor that objects may appear closer than they seem. He'll be having his heart in his mouth right now as they make their way down to the braking zone, and as they do, you can see trying to look up the inside is John Lauzon, but he's not close enough as Rocco above. No, oh, goodness me, there's contact between the 2 Goldwing Motorsport drivers, and it looks as though there's contact with John Lauzon as well as Austin Farr is spun and into the wall, and Henry Morse, who now leads. Well, that's the worst possible outcome you can have when you're 2 teammates and you make contact, but this opens it up as Austin Farr has had to jump to the pitch due to damage to the car, and he will not be happy about that, Austin Farr, given the fact that it was looking so strong, and now Henry Morse has got to try and hold on, but I think it's going to unravel here with 30 seconds to go and 1 more lap after this one, surely, as Henry Morse defends the inside line here into turn number 8, and Rocco above now must know he's got plenty of opportunities because the next driver behind is Edwin Offred, who's 9 tenths back, and as they roll their way down through turn number 9, they go on to 1 more lap here at the Red Bull Ring in round number 2 of the GT4 Championship, and Henry Morse now has to defend with a wounded car as they head up the hill into 1, and as they do a bit further back, you can see now Edwin Offred's breaking away from Lauzon and Butler. Lauzon with damage to the car, and Butler tucked in behind, having saved enough fuel, and it does look as though we can see that Butler's trying to go fight here, and look at Edwin Offred, he's under huge pressure from the 2 McLarens for P3, the Ascension Racing driver here, literally pulling the McLarens along and worrying about them. But as we look to our leaders, Rocco above made to go around the outside into Remus, and it's the case that Henry Morse cuts in very fine. Oh my goodness, and coming out of nowhere there, John Lauzon, and in contact with what is both Edwin Offred and also Jordan Butler. Well, if we wanted to see it kick off at the very end, it has, and what I think it was the case that Jordan Butler came from very far back, and in the end multiple contacts were made, and the stewards are going to have their hands full with regards to that. We'll take a look back at that post-race, but right now Henry Morse here having to hold off for the lead of this race with not long to go. He's got half the lap remaining, and as he rolls his way on through and heading down through turn number 5, can he hold off what is Rocco above as they roll their way down towards turn number 6? And well, where's the overtaking opportunities now? Really, the only place you can go for an overtake is turn number 8 if you get the overspeed. Turn 9 doesn't open up overtaking opportunities here in GT4 class, and as they make their way through, you can see Henry Morse is already covering up. He's got the inside covered into 8. He's going to make Rocco above try and go all the way around the outside. This is going to be very dicey. 2 corners away, Rocco above commits, and there's door-to-door contact there between the 2 of them, and as they make their way on through, I think it's the case that Henry Morse will feel he's got it done because he comes out the final corner. It's going to be Henry Morse and Goldwing Motorsports who takes the win in what is the 2nd round of the GT4 Championship ahead of Rocco above. Edwin Offred completes the pro podium, and then Jermaine Warren comes on through to take the and win P4 overall ahead of Jerome Bajulaz, and then it's going to be Jordan Butler P5 who runs out of fuel he's run out of fuel I think just on the line, and it's John Lauzon in what is P7, Justin Bragan P8 overall, P2 in the AM class, and it's Jonathan Wilding P9 ahead of Duncan Raisin, who takes home P3 in the AM class, completing the AM podium. Then Rodney Velker P11, that's P4 in the AM class, ahead of Lee Porter, who's already jumped to the pits from what we gather. And then we've got Fernando Takahashi P13, Kenny Smith P14, and then Mark Senegal P15. Although I think for Mark Senegal, he's run out of fuel on circuit, and well, he's just going to trundle his way around, and it's downhill thankfully for him, so he should be able to push it to the line, which is very unfortunate for Mark Senegal. And Austin Farr, with that contact with Henry Morse, had to retire by the looks of things. My goodness, ladies and gentlemen, drama right at the finish. But we're going to take a look back at the contact that we saw between Jordan Butler, John Lauzon and Edwin Onofre here. Then making them out the hill, and it was the case Jordan Butler going for a very late move with the overspeed, and well, he almost pulled it off, to be fair. And well, it was the case that in the end he got the car stopped, but Edwin Onofre had already turned into the apex, and then we had a spin, and that, if you're wondering who that is who's had a little bit of a tumble, that's the number 233 car of what was, I believe, Duncan Ray's having a spin at that moment. So my goodness, it was the case of Ray's getting it wrong right in and dropping a position to Justin Braggan at the line. But meanwhile, we now do cut back to what is our live pictures. I think we've got our race results coming in subject to stewards' inquiries. So here are our race results, ladies and gentlemen. Subject to stewards' inquiries, of course, after a very eventful round of racing here at the Red Bull Ring in round 2 of the GT4 Championship. Henry Morse in the end taking the win by 1.2 seconds ahead of Rocker Above in P2, and Edwin Onofre completing the overall and pro podium P3 for him. Jermaine Warren in the end cruising to a P4. Well, he'll think that's the case, given the fact that in the end he was more focused, I think, on tailing the leaders rather than looking behind him. But the middle of the pack racing driver, they're taking the win in the AM class ahead of Jerome, Bajulaz and John Lauzon. And then Justin Braggan at P7 taking P2 in the AM class ahead of John Wilding, and Duncan Ray's P9 overall taking 3rd place in the AM class and therefore completing the AM podium. Lee Porter P10 ahead of Fernando Takahashi, Kenny B. Smith, Jordan Butler, Rodney Velker and Mark Senegal are 15 finishers on circuit. And then we had the late retirement of Austin Farr after that contact with his teammate coming out of turn number 3. And well, my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, a phenomenal race, and it really has set the tone after 2 great rounds. We will be heading to Suzuka in a week's time, and you can imagine the racing there is going to be only ever more intense. But with that in mind, we must now come from our trackside to say thank you very much for watching. And if you have enjoyed and you want to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, whether it is to find out about the series they run, alternatively, if you are interested in taking part in this GT4 Championship yourself, I think the sign-ups are still open, then why not check out the official MPRL Discord, alternatively the MPRL Twitter for further information. Links on screen there, and I can suggest going to the Twitter page at twitter.com/MOP Racing, an absolutely fantastic page there, and you'll get a very warm welcome indeed. And indeed, Middle of the Pack Racing League open to newcomers, whether you're a professional or a rookie, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got a willingness to race as fair as possible, that's what truly matters to Middle of the Pack Racing League. But now we must pack up our bags and get on the plane, because we're going to be heading to Japan for the Suzuka Circuit for round number 3. Now, there's going to be a slight change of schedule this time around, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be bringing you the broadcast on Friday, the 10th of June, 2022. So it won't be next Sunday. It will be this coming Friday, the 10th of June. Set your clocks. The broadcast will be at 8 o'clock in the evening. That's 8 o'clock British Summer Time. That's BST or UTC +1. And we'll be bringing you all of the action from the first of the feature races of the season to wrap up the Formula 1 stage of the calendar. It's sure to be fast. It's sure to be furious. And it's sure to be intense. And you will not want to miss it. But with that, I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain of Spit. And until next time, from all of us here at MPRL, stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.